In this video, I will be removing my turbocharger from my Mazdaspeed MX-5. And I know other Mazdaspeed Miata owners are going to be interested in this video because I have a upgraded BNR Evo3 16G turbo that I previously installed on the car, and I want to provide information in this video on the installation of that turbocharger. I have a build thread on Club Roadster, and I've taken a ton of pictures, and I have like more pictures of the differences between the turbos and stuff, and I'm just going to put that into this video. And I just want to provide some information on the installation of that upgraded turbo, because I know that there's other people with Mazdaspeed Miatas who are interested in doing that upgrade on their car, and I just want to make this video so that it makes it easier for people to do that particular upgrade on their Mazdaspeed. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do in taking the turbo off is take off the heat shields. This one right here and that one right down there. In order to remove this last heat shield right here, what I'm going to have to do is move the dipstick out of the way and then take out the oxygen sensor. For the oxygen sensor, I'm going to have to undo this little clip right here. There. For the oxygen sensor, you need a special socket. The wire that comes out of the oxygen sensor, it'll kind of come out the side of this. So that's what this is for. It just leaves a space for the wire to come out. There's the oxygen sensor. This is how this thing fits over it right here. Next, I'm going to disconnect the dipstick right down there. You can just barely see it. It also holds on the grounding belt right there. It's in a difficult location there. This thing's loosened up, and I can move it out of the way a little bit. And finally, I'll just go ahead and remove this last heat shield right here. And there it is, the final heat shield. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to remove is this rubber hose right here. There's a clamp, and then the clamp has like these little holes in it. And all you do is you just squeeze it together, and this little tab right here, it'll fit through this hole, and then it'll just keep the clamp open as you're taking it off. And you can see how this dips down a little bit right in here. So there's probably like a little bit of water in here, so I'm going to put a towel underneath here. I got that thing hooked in here, so I'll be able to just slide this thing off of here. In order to remove this right here, put this screwdriver underneath here, and then you just push this sideways like that, and it comes undone like really easy like that. Okay, now that I have that undone, I'm just gonna pull this up through here, and then I can start twisting on the hose. And there we go. Before you take the turbocharger off of the engine, it's totally worth taking the AC compressor off and the power steering pump off, because all that holds the AC compressor on is 4 bolts, and once the AC compressor is out of the way, you have this much access, you know, underneath the turbocharger to get to the oil pipe and stuff like that. There's just like it makes a lot of room. And even the sway bar, there's like 4 bolts, you know, underneath here, and then there's like 1 bolt that holds the sway bar on, like right here. So it's worth taking the sway bar off. And this right here, it's really easy to take off. Like, all you have to do is put a mark on this bolt right here and count how many turns it took until this thing comes completely out of this, you know, block right there. And then when you go to put it back in to tension the belt, you turn it that many times to the original position. Other than that, there's just a couple bolts that holds the pump onto the engine. So it's good just to clear all this out and have that extra room. Next, I'm just going to disconnect the upper water line right here from the engine, and while I'm at it, I'm going to do the lower water line. I'm just going to disconnect it, and they're going to leak like crazy, so I'm going to put a towel underneath there. Put 1 towel onto the ground also, and maybe even put an extra one. It takes a 14mm socket to undo this banjo bolt on the water line. There's the upper one, and there's the lower one. And I'm going to go ahead and let these things leak out, I guess. There are washers on here, and before I take the bolt out completely, I just grab a hold of the copper washer that's back there, and then I'll take the bolt out. And there's another copper washer that's on the banjo bolt right there. So that one's removed. And then here's the upper water line, and it moves out of the way pretty good. All you gotta do is slide this insulator out of the way a little bit, and then disconnect this clamp, and then you just pull this thing right off. So there's the upper water line right there. Next, I'm going to take out the bolt from the lower water line right here. So there it is. I let the washer fall out underneath onto the towel right here. It soaked 2 whole towels. That's how much came out. So you just want to put some towels underneath the water lines that go to the turbo before you disconnect them from the turbocharger. The turbocharger oil inlet line, it takes a 12mm. So there's the bolt to it, and there's the little washer. In order to take off the water line back there, the banjo bolt is a 14mm, but this oil line, it gets right in the way of it, so you just got to pull that out. And there's just a little O-ring that holds it on the bottom, and then this right here holds it on at the top from popping out. Okay, I'm down here at the wheel well, and I just got a series of extensions and stuff going to the banjo bolt there, and there we go. I undid it there. I got this bolt right here with the washer, but the other washer fell down. Yeah, the other washer just fell down to the floor down there, so that wasn't no big deal. All I got left is to remove that oil pipe right there, the oil inlet pipe, and disconnect the oil outlet pipe right there. I'm just going to go underneath the wheel well here. I got a series of tools and stuff that go back to that one bolt. So I'll put the camera up here and start taking that off of there. There we go. There's this. There, we got the O-ring here. Where the oil turbocharger oil inlet pipe is, I have this thing that I made right here. I put some gaskets on it, like copper gaskets. But I'm just going to put this into that hole so that it stops oil from draining out too much. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the nuts from the oil outlet pipe that connected to the oil pan underneath the car here. I'm just using 2 small extensions and a 10mm. And there it is. And I'll just get this one from right here also. And there we go. The next thing that I'm going to be removing are these heater lines. I found these clamps right here. They're much better than the stock little springy things that were on there. When I had these stock springs on there, it would leak. So to get rid of the leaking problem, I just bought these at the auto parts store, and you can clamp them down as tight as you want, and I just don't get any leaks. And I'll just squeeze this clamp. Nope, no leaks. I guess I didn't need the towel after all. Okay, the next thing I got to remove, there's a bolt on the very bottom of the turbocharger, and all I got to do is remove this bracket bolt right here. There's not much room to see it. And that's it right there. Next, I have to remove the bracket bolts that go to the turbocharger bracket underneath it. But that's what it looks like right there. So I'm going to get that from above there. I'm going to get to the next bracket bolt from underneath right here. I'm using a series of extensions here with my larger wrench, and it's like a 14mm. That bracket is removed and out of the way. There's the bracket, it fell off. I'm just going to leave it down there for now rather than try to fish it out. The final thing holding the turbocharger and manifold on is the manifold bolts. I'll show you the ones underneath here just to get a view of how everything looks. There's a bolt right back in there. And then right here where this water line is, there's a bolt back there that's actually connected to the water line itself, and you're gonna have to pull the water line off of that stud so that you can slide the exhaust manifold off the stud also. And then you got that final bolt right over there. Whenever you take off the exhaust nuts, what you want to do is you want to use some sort of penetrating oil, because those get really dried out from the heat and stuff, and they turn rusty and everything. You might want to get a wire brush and brush the rust off of it if yours have rust on it. And another thing that you could do maybe is purchase some navel jelly and put it on there if they're really rusty. and let the navel jelly eat the rust like overnight or something off of the studs. Like a technique that you can use is you put the penetrating oil on there and then you turn it like 1/8 of a turn and you go like that and then you put it back on and then you just go back like this, and what that does is it works the oil into the threads. If I feel like I'm turning it and it kind of stops and there's like a little bit of pressure as I'm taking one of these off, that's what I'll do. I'll just switch it and then I'll spray penetrant oil or just regular oil onto it and I'll turn it back where it was and then just go like this until the oil gets worked into the threads. Like if you feel some sort of tension or something like that, just don't try to crank it off because you'll probably ruin the threads inside of the head itself, and you just don't want to do that. I'm making this part of the video a little bit longer just to stress how important that is. Just make sure that you get those off without stripping anything, because they could be really difficult at times. Whenever you take this exhaust manifold off, like you want to take these outside bolts off first, or loosen these ones up first like this, and then the next ones you loosen up are like here and here, and then these are the next ones, and then finally you get to the center one last. Okay, so I'm gonna get started right here. And what I'm just going to do first is just turn this like 1/8 of a turn just to get it loosened. Do that one, and then finally I'm saving the center one for last. There. But I have a feeling like if it's the first time you take this turbo off of your car, I had trouble, a lot of trouble getting the studs off. Okay, here it goes. I'm going to see how well this goes. And there we go. Right there. It is off. I just wrapped the turbocharger up in a plastic bag to keep the dirt and junk out of